This is Business Daily on the BBC World Service with me, Zoe Kleinman. In today's programme, the fake but charming military men who are after your money. We look at one of the oldest and most successful romance scams. Renee Holland thought she'd made an exciting new friend.
She went to the airport to pick him up one day, and she was draped in an American flag. She had "Welcome Home" written on the windows of her car. And when she got there, she realized that she had been scammed. No one was going to arrive.
But for the men behind the scam, it's just a numbers game.
It may message thousands. Only few will respond. 5 may comply. Out of the 5, 3 may not have money. 2 we have. Out of 2, 1 may not be able to send money.
Okay.
But 1 will surely send.
That's all on Business Daily from the BBC. We've both had a few of these things lately, haven't we? Here, I've got one. I'm here in search for a companion and who will take care of me.
Had loads more at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes, there was a deluge, wasn't there?
Absolutely. Almost always in a US military uniform, very little information or just a message request, which I then deleted, obviously, but they kept coming.
That's producer Sarah and I talking about the never-ending fake friend requests on our social media. And that's because when it comes to friend requests, things are not always as they seem. It's always quite blatantly, I'm looking for love, I'm looking for a relationship.
It's not very subtle. And I suppose that's the point.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, they do look extremely fake. And so sitting here talking to you, it does seem quite hard to believe that anybody would fall for it. But they do.
They must do, otherwise we wouldn't get them, would we?
There was this guy saying he was in the army and he was somewhere nearby. And then I thought, oh, that's interesting. Looks nice on the photo as well. And we connect and start chatting.
That's Beth. She was looking for love and started chatting to someone she thought was a handsome military man on a heroic mission in a dangerous part of the world.
Yeah, and then he was very complimentary. He said, oh, maybe I can just send you a photo. And he did send a photo of him in the army uniform. He didn't contact for more than 24 hours. And then suddenly he said, oh, our camping was attacked, was really hard, I lost a friend, really dramatic. And I was like, oh my gosh. And of course, not knowing anyone who's been in the military or Navy, Army, I would not know what happens out there.
We're going to come back to Beth, but she's one of probably millions of people who are contacted by romance scammers looking to sweep you off your feet and get into your bank account.
I think we've seen a huge uptick in romance scams and similar types of social engineering attacks.
Here's Lisa Forte, a cybersecurity expert from Red Goat Security.
From the cases that I've looked at, the vast majority have come from Colombia and South American countries. Some of them have come from the Philippines and then some from Nigeria and other African countries. But the vast majority are from Colombia, Venezuela, and other South American countries. One of my last cases that I looked into, the lady sent about $350,000 to the gentleman who she had fallen in love with online. And she raised this by remortgaging her house and sending it across to Colombia in one go. And it was so that he could buy a house for his family, who he'd fed this story about how his grandma was sick. And I think it is shocking, but what you have to understand is that this didn't just happen overnight. This wasn't just her suddenly deciding. This built up over months where he was messaging her all the time. They had all these amazing conversations. Maybe some small gifts were exchanged. And very slowly and steadily, he built up to asking her for this amount of money. And that's how they work. They build that rapport and they slowly take you on this journey from being cautious all the way to remortgaging your house.
So how do they do it?
Certainly the scammers from Colombia and South America are very open and honest about where they are. They actually use that as a way of building rapport, building some empathy with you, especially when they say, oh, I'm from Venezuela and we're having these terrible troubles at the moment. I need some help. I need some money. I need some help and advice. So actually they tend to be very honest about where they are. And I think generally they're very charming. They're going to be incredibly similar to you. They're going to have a lot of similarities, same sort of hobbies. All of these sorts of things are used to build rapport with you quickly so that you instantly feel like you are two of the same kind.
But what puzzled producer Sarah and I was why we got so many when our accounts were locked. We even unfollowed each other to see what was visible from the outside. And the answer was not a lot, just our names and a tiny profile picture. Professor Alan Woodward is a cybersecurity expert from Surrey University. Here's his theory.
You're giving them the opportunity almost to interact with you behind closed doors. It's not public, although other people that have access to your account might see some of the interactions. By doing that behind closed curtains, effectively, you're giving them a little bit of camouflage. There isn't going to be somebody publicly, for example, that can see that the same person that might have been trying to scam them is trying to scam you. Simple things like that, I think, will tend to attract them to those locked accounts.
We were also amazed by how many of our new wannabe friends claim to be men in the US military. Here's Lisa Forte again.
The military is chosen as a pretext, a cover story if you like, for what their job is, mainly because there is this layer of secrecy. It's not so transparent. You can't just call up the military and say, can you tell me if this person worked for you? And I think there's also this air of honour, sort of, oh, you can trust me because I was in the military. And that all helps to communicate really well that you can trust me. And that's what they want from their victims.
Professor Alan Woodward again.
These romance scams, they are very, very sophisticated, and the people, they do know what they're doing. And rather than multitask across different types of scams, more than anything, you get teams of people who are targeting lots of individuals at once. So you might think you're forming a relationship with one person, but in actual fact, it's a small team of people there who are doing the same thing to many people at once.
Basically, it's shift work.
Yeah, they take turns. It's almost a bit like working in a call centre. Bear in mind, you're interacting with them over text quite often. You don't talk to them. They've got an image, a picture, which is probably stolen from somebody's Facebook account. And you've got to also bear in mind that when we communicate, most of what we understand from other people is from body language. And because we don't get that through these forms of communication, our minds fill in those parts. If you're looking for something, you tend to see it.
You also have to cast the net wide.
They're playing the numbers. If you do it to enough people quickly enough, those that are going to sort of say, hold on a minute, there's something wrong here, they'll just stop talking to them because they're no longer worth the investment of the time. But then that small proportion, if you've got enough people on the go, they do have a lot of people on the go at any one time. You only need a small proportion of them to play your game, and that's how they make their money.
Remember Beth? She realised just in time that her potential new boyfriend wasn't what he seemed, but the experience left her shaken.
You do get a little shock, first because you start thinking that could be someone that you could have the chance to meet and see if there was a potential new person for you to meet and have a chat and see how it goes. And second is straight after the shock of talking to someone who is not the person who is saying he was, could be anyone, anywhere in the world, passing as somewhere else. Like even the guy on the photos clearly doesn't know his photos being used and was a totally false profile. And I just thought, how scary is that?
Beth's point about the real people in the photos used by the scammers, those people who of course have no idea what's going on, really made us think. Sarah and I were wondering how it must feel to find out that someone's using your face to strike up a fake romance. And then I found out. Someone had cloned my Instagram account, used my name, handpicked a few of my photos and started messaging people saying it was my new secret space. I only found out when a couple of those people, all men, messaged me to ask what was going on. I'll never know how many people the fake me contacted or what they said. When I told Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, by the way, they deleted the account eventually, but they wouldn't tell me where in the world it had come from. They said impersonating someone else is against their community guidelines, and they will delete an offending account once they are made aware of it. There are loads of them out there, though, and the consequences can be devastating.
So Renee Holland was a middle-aged woman living in Delaware.
That's Jack Nickus from the New York Times. He made a documentary about romance scammers, and he told me Renee's story.
Like many people, downloaded Facebook on their phone, and eventually she got a friend request from a stranger, a man named Michael Chris, who was a soldier. She developed a friendship with this man, and eventually the friendship got deeper and deeper, where she was sending him packages and money. The relationship evolved so much that eventually she sent thousands of dollars to him for plane tickets to have him come visit her or come home to America. And she went to the airport to pick him up one day.